few people joining us a little bit later, but that's okay. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas y buenas tardes. Todavía tenemos luz. We still got light. So I've got to still be on, buenas tardes. You're probably going to be hearing buenas tardes until what? October, end of September. Buenas tardes. The sun is still up. Muy buenas tardes. We are going to check out a number of things. Oh, I've got to get on my right page here to pull up all my information. We're going to actually start with a little mini lesson because this will help you as we do our walkthrough with the Destinos. So we're going to do a little mini lesson, which won't be terribly hard, and you don't have to master it for speaking. You just have to think about it for listening, because I was thinking as I reviewed the Destinos that this is an item that you're hearing almost constantly in this episode. And so we want to give you a really brief overview of what it is about. And that's going to be perfect tenses. So we're going to learn a little bit about perfect tenses only for the experience of listening comprehension, not for speaking yet. And we'll talk about why it isn't super necessary for a lot of conversation. But for the listening, it was kind of a major piece. And then when we do the walkthrough, you'll see how they were using it. We're going to also pull up our... ¿Dónde está? Momentito. We're going to pull up our little article here about salud, sí, mantener la salud, keeping your health. Kind of take a, see if you had any questions about this. This was kind of longish, but it's not super, well, it probably is a little bit complicated. We'll get through as much of it as we can, at least half of it. And we're going to use that as a prompt to do some small group conversation as well. And the small group conversation, just as a reminder, is going to be, our prompt was to talk about what you plan to do this year to improve a healthy lifestyle or to maintain your healthy lifestyle, because that's what the article was all about. So we'll check all of that out. Y vamos a empezar con la mini lección, the mini lesson, something that you heard a lot of, but we've not had a real lesson on it, is this little thing called perfect tenses, los tiempos perfectos. There's a reason that we don't go hog wild on these. Primero, para empezar, to begin with, it's not even in here. Not even in there. So the good news is it's easy to pick up for listening pretty quickly. What the heck is the perfect tense? This was like salt and pepper all over the Destinos, this perfect tense business, in a number of different forms. The perfect tenses mean, wow, why are they perfect? They're perfect because they use an auxiliary verb, a helping verb, and a past participle. And actually, a lot of you in past lessons going way back, you remember we used we can use past participles to talk about descriptions. But this is a little bit different. It's still going to use past participles. So, this is something that we do all the time, but you need to have perfect tenses mean you're using two verbs together. And this verb tense needs two parts. It can't be a perfect tense without one part or the other. They both have to be working together. Okay, so the good news is you're only conjugating for any perfect tense. You're only conjugating one verb. You're conjugating one verb and nothing else. I mean, for every single thing in perfect tense, you'll see why. Perfect tenses mean somebody has it. This is how it translates. somebody has done something, or they have done something. And it's called present perfect because the first half, the helping verb, the auxiliary verb, is in the present tense. And that's why it's called present perfect. Okay. All you really need to know is that it means somebody has done something or some people have done something if it's present perfect. And the only verb we're conjugating is haber. Haber is the auxiliary verb. Okay. Way back when you were in like 3rd, 4th grade, and who remembers that, you learned about auxiliary verbs. Have, has, had. Oh, is and are, like I am walking. Yeah, to be can be an auxiliary verb as well. And an auxiliary verb means we've got these two components that are working together to make the verb tense. So, okay, let me back up a little bit. These perfect tenses, whether they are present perfect or past perfect, and they can even be subjunctive forms of perfect tenses. They use the two pieces together, but they're really talking about something that's over with. They're really not talking about what's going on now, just so you know. So the way we form it is, if you know how to conjugate haber, that's it. That's kind of the main thing. Haber is actually the same verb we get hay from. Por ejemplo, hay muchos papeles aquí, hay muchos papeles, o hay dos libros, hay, or in its past, había, there, hay means there is or there are, right? Había means there was or there were. I, when it is used by its lonesome, by itself, means there is or there are, there was or there were, and it never gets conjugated any other way. It's I. And in that sense, haber is being used as an impersonal verb. When I say there are 2 books, there is no human being I'm talking about. I'm just saying these things exist. So I kind of wears 2 caps in the grammar world. One cap is, yay, I only have one form, I. Right? And that's when it's talking about things in an impersonal sense. There is this item, or there are these things. They're just around. They just exist. Or in the past, there were. Okay? But haber wears another grammar hat. And the other grammar hat is to go into these perfect tenses. And in those cases, it will get other conjugations that are not I. And haber in this sense is what we use to say have or has. But notice this is not the have we use as tener. Tener means to have, as own something, you possess something. But if you want to say somebody has fallen asleep, somebody has written a book, somebody has drained the pasta, somebody has frozen the meat. That have or has, okay, goes into all different conjugations, but this is the only part you're ever conjugating. The yo form is going to be but they're all spelled with H's because haber, yeah, has that H that we can't get rid of. We just don't pronounce it. The tu form will be as. The él or ella or usted form will be a. The nosotros form is hemos. The vosotros form looks like haber. It's the only one that looks like haber. Habéis, and only Spaniards will use that. And the ellos or ellas or ustedes forms will be han. And the second half of this phrase will be what we call a past participle. And I've used one that's kind of an, it's an irregular past participle, but it's a really common one because we use this phrase, this expression all the time. I have seen. What have you seen? Have you seen him? Have you seen her? Have you seen this show? Oh, we've seen that movie. So the only thing that gets conjugated is haber. And no matter what verb you're using as that participle, haber is always has, hemos, habéis, han. That's all it ever is. Yay. So all you'd have to know how to do is to form the participle. And actually, I probably should put a different one up that rather than visto, I'll change that when I send the form to you. But it'll be past participle. And that one, look, is always the same. Visto is the same no matter who has done the action. It never changes. The past participle is always the same thing. It always ends in an O. It never goes plural. It never goes nosotros. It's just that one form. Okay. Here's how you form the past participle. And I'll change up the visto. Actually, let's change it here. We're going to change it to something that's a little more recognizable for you guys. We'll change it to llamado. Called. I've called. Oh, I've called him 1,000 times and he's still not here. I've called my doctor twice and nobody has called me back. But no matter what you do, and I'll put this in because it is a regular verb. And so it's a little easier to see what those regular verbs are going to do. But, you know, llamado, it doesn't matter who has done the action. It's llamado is always llamado. Yes. You only have to know how to say has, hemos, habéis, han. Boom. That is it. Fácil. Super easy. How do we form the past participle? ¿Cómo se forma? Perdón. Okay. Really, really easy. We take off the AR, the ER, the IR, and we use ado for AR verbs. We use ido for ER and IR verbs. Yay, qué fácil. So, you know, comprar becomes comprado, llegar becomes llegado, tomar becomes tomado, visitar becomes visitado, ir, because you take away the IR, you got a whole lot of nothing left. Ir becomes ido. Yeah, regular. Even ir is regular for this. Entender is entendido. Dormir is dormido. Leer is leído. No stem changes. None of that kind of hooey. It's ado or it's ido. Ooh, unless it's irregular. So we'll look at that step next. So ado and ido. And, you know, he comprado. I have bought. Has comprado algo. Have you bought something? Mi hijo ha comprado un carro nuevo. My son has bought a new car, right? Comprado is always comprado, no matter who did it. The only thing that gets conjugated is the haber part. And you'll get a link to all this, so you don't need to copy it down furiously. So this translates to somebody has done something or have done something. If I say my son has bought a car, is he doing it right now? No. But you kind of get the idea, well, it's kind of recent. Yeah, I mean, it's done, but it's kind of recent. Or we use it also to say that somebody has done something in their past experience. Like, you know, I have traveled to Europe a few times. Okay. So Spanish uses it for that reason as well. In conversation, this present perfect is very common in Spain, really common. If I want to talk about what I just did today, or maybe even what I did this week, Spaniards use this all the time. Latin Americans, hardly ever. It's just not their habit in conversation to use it that frequently. Everybody knows how to use it. Everybody reads it. In Latin America, you see it a lot in written language. So, but in conversation, it's used a little more frequently, I would say, in Spain. Latin Americans prefer to just use plain old preterite to talk about the past. Boom. Okay. But even in Latin America, you will hear and see this a lot. If you listen to the news, TV, you will hear it a lot. So for formal speaking, not for chit chat amongst family and friends, but for formal speaking, you'll hear it a lot. In newscasts, you'll hear it a lot. In reading, you will read it a lot. It is considered proper speech for formal writing. So there you go. That's why it's used. Okay, let's take a look at the ado ido thing. Most verbs that have a regular participle use ado or ido, okay? Sadly, there are a whole lot of verbs that are really common verbs that don't use ado and ido. They use a whole different word, okay? And there is no pattern to these. You just have to know them, which is sad.
Well, at least they look like they all end in O.
But they do. They all end in O. All of them end in O. No matter who does it, they're always these forms. So, literally, you just have to know haber. That's it. So, ver becomes visto. Well, it's not vido. Yeah. Decir becomes dicho. Hacer becomes hecho. Abrir becomes abierto. Morir becomes muerto. Poner becomes puesto. Escribir becomes escrito. Romper becomes roto. Volver becomes vuelto. And when you look at the endings of those words, okay, they end in O, but they're not ado and ido. And what they do is it's just all over the place. They're just like random words. You have to memorize what these participles are. Okay. And these are really, really common words. So, what do these mean? They don't mean saw, they mean seen. I have seen something, right? They mean said or told. They mean done or made. What have you done? What have you made? They mean opened. The store has already opened. They mean died. They mean poner is to put or place, so generally put. And wow, what a confusing word put is in English. I always put my glasses on the table. I put my glasses on the table at 5:30. Now it's past. I have put all the clothes, all the laundry away. Put, and we don't, it's always put. How do you explain that to somebody? I don't know. And not wrote, but written. We have written, right? Broken, yeah. And returned. Or, oops, or come back. I have come back. He vuelto. Okay. So, generally in English, where we use an ED like returned to do this, and English has lots of oddball things too. Seen sure doesn't look like saw, and it sure isn't seed. I have seeded. Nobody says that, right? So, we have a lot of oddball past participles in English. We just don't think about it because, it's second nature. I have drived to the store. No, I have driven. Yeah, we have all kinds of weird stuff. I have been there. Yeah, not I have been, right? So yeah, whereas words like this, comprado means bought, right? I have bought these things, arrived, taken, and of course in Spanish, tomado can be you've drunk something, you've eaten something, visited, and you see, like a lot of times we have these ED things. But then we have gone. I have gone. understood, right? Ooh, and we don't say sleeped, we say I have slept, right? Yeah, hey, have you ever slept on an air mattress? Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. And read is like put. We never say readed. Read. Yeah. And it's spelled the same, but it's pronounced differently. I read every day. I read that yesterday. It's still spelled the same. Just say it differently. English is bizarre. Okay. So these are, here's the particle half. And you will have heard this a lot. Okay. So haber is the only verb you've got to memorize or that you have to conjugate. This sometimes will be in the passive. You will even hear it in subjunctive, but we're not going to get too far into the weeds with that yet. So if we want to put this like, wait a minute, isn't it already past? I have driven past this building 1,000,000 times. I have driven. Well, isn't it over with? Oh, I had driven. Yeah, had driven. That's what it means. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take haber and I'm going to put it into imperfecto. Okay. So instead of saying somebody has done something or had done something, we're going to take haber, still take haber, but we're going to put it into imperfecto and that makes it somebody had done something. So now I can use my visto word. Había visto, habías visto, había visto, habíamos visto, habíais visto, habían visto. So, you know, haber does all the work. It is the only job that does the work. Okay. Why do we need past perfect? Well, when somebody puts something way farther back in the past, farther back than other stuff that's been happening. Same reason we use it in English, right? You know, I had seen her before she got injured. I had helped him. I had helped him after the roof caved in. Yeah. So we use perfect tenses in Spanish pretty much for the same reasons. Okay. And I will send you all those notes. So don't feel you have to furiously copy them. You may want to have maybe little notes of just these as, hemos, habéis, on, so that you know what they're talking about when we do our walkthrough on Destinos. And, you know, sometimes that haber is going to go into other odd things that will feel weird for you. It'll go to something that sounds like haya, which sounds kind of like I, but it's haya, and then it's going to be a subjunctive. And so haber can go into lots of different tenses, but this past participle you use paired up with it. You know, it's a 1-2 punch. That always stays the same, no matter what you do with that verb haber. Okay, I do want to show you a little video about haber so you understand how it is used. And then we'll do our little walkthrough with Destinos after that. And again, I'll give you the link for this particular video. But it kind of illustrates how this is used. Ooh, vamos a ver. Sí, dime.
If you conjugate haber to as, that's present perfect?
It's present perfect. All you need to know, it means somebody has done something. Somebody, some people have done something.
And if you conjugate haber into the imperfect tense,
then it's had.
Had. And is that still the present perfect tense?
That's a past perfect tense.
Past perfect.
It's not really important that you know all that grammar-ese. It's important that you know that one means had worked with me for many years. versus I have worked with that guy.
Mhm.
I have worked with them not so long ago. And you know what? I have worked with them. It might even imply that it might happen again. But it's called present perfect because haber is in present conjugations.
And so that
It's
would
called
be,
past perfect because haber goes into a true, honest to God, past tense, the imperfect.
oh, okay, because I
That's
wanted
why.
to know what it would be called, like past perfect or past
Yeah.
perfect, you know.
And in Spanish, they have different terms for it, but it's what we would call past perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's have traveled, has traveled, present perfect, had traveled, past perfect. That's all it means. Okay.
Okay,
So he's going to show some examples of how this would work in an actual conversation, conversational setting. Okay.
Mhm.
En esta lección, vamos a hablar acerca del pretérito perfecto. This video is brought to you by Señor Loader. So there I was in the front seat of a taxi in Mallorca.
And notice he's talking about a trip to Spain. So people conversationally use this in Spain a lot.
Off of the coast of Spain, when the taxi driver, who had driven for a while with the meter turned off, suddenly parks and gets out of the cab and walks away. Yeah, he came back with somebody that spoke very broken English at best. Now, between my 4 years of high school Spanish and this man's broken English, we figured out that the club that we were trying to go to didn't exist. And I told the taxi cab driver to take me back to the hotel.
And notice how this broken English, no exists club. So never feel bad about making a mistake. He still got the idea across, even though it sounded weird. No exists club. These guys were going out clubbing. No exists club. Yeah.
Well, where he picked us up. However, on the way back, I was able to finally have my first lengthy conversation with a taxi cab driver in Spanish. And while I asked him a lot of questions, I specifically remember asking this question: ¿Nunca ha viajado a los Estados Unidos?
Nunca ha viajado. Have you never traveled to the US? Or probably we would phrase it as, haven't you ever? Even though that word is nunca, never, haven't you ever is really how you're going to say it in English, right? I mean, that's how we say it. But in Spanish, it's nunca viajado. Have you never traveled?
Wait, that looks kind of funny. Nunca ha viajado a los Estados Unidos. It might look weird because it's the present perfect. Before I explain the present perfect to you though, let's try something. Figure out which sentences mention Spanish-speaking countries or specific places within them. Pause the video if you need more time, and check the word bank if you aren't sure about a word. ¿Nunca has viajado a Australia? Mis amigos han ido a las ruinas de Machu Picchu.
My friends have gone to the ruins at Machu Picchu.
¿Todavía no se han levantado ustedes?
Haven't you guys gotten up yet?
¿Quién ha comido en el restaurante nuevo?
Who's eaten at the new restaurant?
Guillermo ha corrido de los toros en Pamplona.
Guillermo has run in with the bulls at Pamplona.
Yo nunca he dormido en la calle.
I have never slept in the street. Why would you say that? Because that is what happens at Pamplona. You wake up during the week of the running of the bulls. Oh, it's coming up in about, oh no, it's not coming up. They canceled this year because of COVID. They are not running the bulls this year. Second year in a row, they're not doing it. They're very unhappy about that because it brings in a lot of income. But typically, in a typical San Fermines Pamplona week, because they do the running of the bulls for a whole week. When you walk down the street in the morning, there are people sleeping in the street because they've been partying hardy all night. And they got botas with this stuff in it. Yeah, it's kind of gross. They're trying to clean that up a little bit now. trying to make it a more family-oriented running of the bulls. How do you make that family-oriented with people getting trampled? I don't know. Anyway, he's talking about sleeping in the street because that's what people do at Pamplona in that week. There are always people who are fallen down drunk, laying in the gutter. It's sad.
¿Quieres saber si hemos ido a las pirámides de Egipto?
Do you want to know if we have gone to the pyramids in Egypt?
Julia no ha nadado en el lago Titicaca.
Julio has not swum.
¿Has conocido a una persona famosa?
Have you met a famous
No
person?
he vivido en La Paz.
I have not lived in La Paz.
¿Carlos y José han asistido a una misa en la Sagrada Familia?
Have these guys
¿No
attended
has visto las
mass?
tortugas poniendo huevos en el Parque Nacional Tortuguero?
Haven't you seen the tortoises laying eggs? Poner huevos, putting eggs is what they used to say, laying eggs. Haven't you seen the tortoises laying eggs in Parque Nacional? Okay.
Muy bien. Let's see how you did. So these were all of the sentences that mention something in Spanish-speaking countries, or specifically a Spanish-speaking country. Machu Picchu is in Peru. Pamplona is in Spain. Lake Titicaca is between Peru and Bolivia.
Oh, yeah. The ha-ha word, titicaca, of every 15 and 16-year-old boy. Titicaca, because, yeah. And they all know caca means poop. Oh, is that what that means? No. It's an indigenous name. It's in South America. Please stop making fun of it. Okay, let's go on.
La Paz is in Bolivia. La Sagrada Familia is a church in Barcelona, Spain. And El Parque Nacional Tortuguero is in Costa Rica. Bien? Okay, so aside from some of the sentences having places relating to Spanish-speaking countries, did you notice anything else in the sentences? Perhaps did you notice the verbs? They were a little bit different, right? The majority of them were actually in two different pieces. That's because these are in the present perfect, meaning has done something.
And notice that first one is a reflexive. So if you need a me, te, no sé, it goes in front of haber, because haber, the form of haber is the verb that gets conjugated, and that's where the little pronoun will be. There is no attaching a reflexive to those participles you see in green. There is none of that, ever, ever, ever. Okay. And whenever we have two verbs working together to form a tense, the little me, te, no, sé can never be in the middle of the two verbs. No, prohibido, forbidden. Okay. Cannot do that. So it has to be in front of the verb. That means it's in front of whatever the form of haber is.
Let's look at all the verbs in all of those sentences again. The first part tells us who has done the action, while the second part tells us the action that has been done, like the ed part. So for the first part, can you tell, based on these examples, which form goes with yo, tú, él, usted, etc., telling us who has done something? Pause the video and try and see how you do.
And look, Spanish is wonderfully consistent. When you look at the forms of haber, anything that has an N on the end of it always means they're doing it. You know, a little lonely S on the end, it's always a tú form. A most is always a we, a nosotros form. Yeah. So the only truly kind of odd, well, okay, maybe the él, usted form is kind of odd. But the yo form is odd. You know, you couldn't guess that too easily.
You should have come up with a, as, a, hemos, an. And a base will be for vosotros and vosotras. In case you were curious, these are actually forms of the verb haber, where we get the word I from. Now the second part tells us what has been done. Using the examples in the green box, see if you can figure out how we form the second part. And pause the video and see if you can answer these questions while the video is paused. Do AR, ER, and IR verbs have the same ending here? What do I do to the verbs to make them that ED form, or that past kind of form? The first question, no. Second one, how do we form them? In case it threw you off, I probably should have mentioned that visto is a weird one though. It doesn't follow the general rule. It's irregular. We'll go over it later. Okay, so here's how it works. For AR verbs, we take off the R and add DO, For ER verbs, we take off the ER and add IDO. And for IR verbs, we take off the R and add DO.
Okay, but isn't it just easier, since you always take off AR, ER, IR, just do that and do other or do either, yeah. I know. But, okay, so he explains it a little differently, but it's the same result.
So you'll notice that ER verbs are weird ones because they end in IDO instead of EDO, and they're just kind of copying those IR verbs. Except for visto, which is actually from the verb ver, to see, which again is irregular here. We'll talk about that in a different video. So see if you can see that different people have talked, like I have talked, you have talked, he has talked, she has talked, we have talked, they have talked, and you all have talked. Pause the video if you need more time. So the first thing that I do is do the first part. So we have us, hemos, habéis, and han, right? And then for hablar, take off the R, add the do, and you have hablado, and then put that at the end of all of them. It'd be the same. So we come up with he hablado, I have talked, has hablado, you have talked, ha hablado, he or she has talked, or you formal have talked, hemos hablado, we have talked, habéis hablado, you all have talked in Spain, and han hablado, they have talked, or you all have talked. Now, let's try an ER verb, comer, to eat. See if you can figure out how to do it to say I have eaten, you have eaten, he's eaten, etc. Pause the video if you need more time. Okay, so we're going to do the first part first. We have us, hemos, habéis, and han in those boxes. And then look at comer. Remember the rule is take off that ER and then add IDO. And we come up with comido. Put that behind every single one of those. And you have he comido, I have eaten. Has comido, you have eaten. Ha comido, he or she has eaten. Hemos comido, we have eaten. Habéis comido, you all have eaten in Spain. Han comido, they have eaten or you all have eaten. Let's try one more. An IR verb, dormir, to sleep. See if you can figure out how to say I have slept, you have slept, etc. Pause the video if you need more time.
And notice there will not be a UE stem change because these participles do not get stem changes. Okay.
Again, do the first part. We have us, hemos, habéis, and han. Then we deal with dormir, take off the R, add do, you have dormido. Put it at the end of all of them, and you'll get he dormido, I have slept, has dormido, you have slept, ha dormido, he or she has slept, hemos dormido, we have slept, habéis dormido, you all have slept, in Spain that is, and han dormido, they have slept, or you all have slept. It's not too hard, but okay, now direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and reflexive pronouns will go after the subject pronouns, yo, tu, él, ella, usted, etc., and after a no if the sentence is negative, and before the verb phrase, as usual. For example, no me he levantado. I haven't gotten up. Él se ha dormido or ella se ha dormido. He or she has gone to sleep. So notice that the me goes before the verb phrase, but after the no, as they usually do, and the se goes before the verb phrase. Meaning that we can't attach these like we did to the ing form. So please don't get confused and think you can attach it to the end of these. They're not.
So you can't attach any, no attaching, me, te, nos, lo, la, le, none of that stuff. Cannot attach it. Just cannot be done. Okay. Whoop, pardon. I went too far ahead. Pardon. Okay.
And if you put it at the beginning or the end of either phrase, it's not going to make any difference in meaning. It's the same meaning. It's just personal preference. So, did you figure out what I asked the taxi cab driver when I asked him, ¿Nunca ha viajado a los Estados Unidos? Have you ever traveled to the United States? Literally, never have you traveled to the States United. Why didn't I just use the preterite? Well, the present perfect and the preterite are just a little bit different. How so, you might ask? In some places, there is more of a distinction, and one might use the present perfect for the more recent past, things that have happened or haven't happened today, for example, while the preterite might just be more in the past. Or it could just have a different meaning entirely. Let's look at an example. If I ask someone, ¿Has ido al cine? It would mean, have you gone to the movie theater? But fuiste al cine would be, did you go? Like we talked about.
So that's the difference. That's the difference. Have you gone versus did you go? That's what they mean. ha sido is pretty frequent in Spain when people mean like, did you do it today or did you do it maybe yesterday? You know, it's pretty frequent. You won't hear has ido to talk about like just recent past very much in Latin America, but
About it,
people
or I
know what
knew
it
that you
means.
wanted to go, and you went or didn't go. But in other contexts, the present perfect and preterite could be used interchangeably. One more thing, if you're wondering why this is called the present perfect, or in Spanish, pretérito perfecto, past perfect, is that related to the imperfect at all? Actually, yes. Grammatically speaking here, when a verb is in the present or past perfect, perfect there refers to the action being completed. So the present perfect in English is something that is completed in the present or not so distant past. But let's go back to the imperfect. The full name in Spanish is pretérito imperfecto, while the preterite that we know is called pretérito simple. So if something is imperfect, it means it is not perfect. So the imperfect is the past that isn't completed.
Don't worry about that.
That should help the imperfect make more sense, because remember, all the
So don't worry about that. That's too far in the Grammarese weeds, okay? Just, I have done it, she has done it, versus they had done it. That's all you need to know. That's what it means, and that's all that's important, okay?
the things we
Do we
talked
have a
about with
couple? I think you had a
imperfect being
couple other
continuous
examples.
actions,
Oh.
ongoing descriptions, etc., were not completed. Just kept going in the context of the story. And that's it for this video lesson.
Okay.
Hopefully it was able to help you with
Y
the
eso
present perfect.
es todo. That is it. Okay, so we're going to just kind of reconnoiter through our little destinos, and you're going to start to hear this used a lot. Do you have any questions before I start that up? Sí o no? Nada, nada. Okay. So just be aware of that as we kind of walk through. Y el episodio se llama La misma sonrisa. La misma sonrisa. La misma sonrisa is the same smile. Yeah, so that's what they're talking about there. Y vamos a empezar. We're going to start. Uy, a ver, otra vez. Otra vez. Vamos a empezar aquí. And we're going to take a quick look at it because they use kind of a lot of advanced grammar through here, but you probably got the idea of what they were talking about. So we're going to really pick up. They always do sort of the recap. La misma sonrisa, the same smile, which why did they have it with Pobre Carlos standing there looking like, yeah, having a bad day. Carlos pide un carro.
Por supuesto, pero ¿qué pasa con el tuyo?
Le pide un carro a su hermano. He's bumming a car off his bro. Yeah. ¿Por qué necesita un carro? ¿Por qué necesita un carro? Why the heck does he need a car? Busca a Gloria. Busca a Gloria. Carlos busca a Gloria. He's looking for the wifey. Yeah, see? Busca a Gloria. And he doesn't want to get into the details.
No te lo puedo decir.
No te lo puedo decir. Gloria tiene el carro de Carlos. Gloria se fue con el carro, ¿sí? Gloria, la esposa de Carlos, se fue con el carro de la Galia, de la casa, se fue de la casa con el carro. Entonces, Carlos le pidió el carro a su hermano. He asked his brother to bum his car, ¿sí?
Bien, pero ¿qué es lo que ocurre?
What
Dice
happened?
que ustedes saben todo lo de las finanzas de Miami.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the cat's out of the bag about the money problems, he says.
Les debo a todos una explicación.
Les debo a todos. I owe you guys an explanation. Claro.
Pero ahorita necesito tu carro, por favor.
Está bien,
Okay.
pero me dejas confundido. ¿Qué tiene que ver Gloria?
¿Qué tiene que ver Gloria? What does Gloria have to see? Huh? No. ¿Qué tiene que ver Gloria en todo esto? What does Gloria have to do with all of this? Tener que ver quiere decir, it means, what does it have to do? This is a special little phrase. It means a special little thing. It does not mean what does she have to see? Like she has to see something. No. ¿Qué tiene que ver Gloria? What does she have to do with this? How is she mixed up in all this thing? The car is gone, the finances of the office. What does she have to do with this?
En todo esto.
How is she
Prometo que te lo
involved?
explicaré más tarde.
Te prometo, I promise you, te prometo que te lo explicaré más tarde. I promise I will explain it all to you later on.
No te preocupes. Hasta luego.
Don't worry. Y bueno, ahora cambiamos de tema. We change our theme a little bit. Sí, ¿quiénes son esas personas? ¿Y dónde están? ¿Quiénes son y dónde están?
Roberto.
Roberto y Ángela.
Roberto y Ángela, sí, son los hermanos, sí, hermanos son los hijos de Ángel, que se murió, Ángel died, pero son los hijos de Ángel, ¿verdad? ¿Y dónde están? ¿Dónde están?
En un
En el
hospital.
hospital.
En un hospital, sí, un hospital, porque le casó o le sacó a Roberto de la excavación y ahora está en el hospital. Bueno, and we see a past perfect. Es como un sueño. This is like a dream, isn't
Como un
it?
sueño, ¿no? Y pensar que papá creyó todas
And to think that dad thought all his life que su padre había
su
muerto.
vida que su padre había muerto.
And to think that dad thought all along, all his life, that his father had died. Here's the person. Oh, que había muerto. All along, dad just thought that his father had kicked the bucket. And notice that había muerto talks about something way, 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 way far back. Dad had died, not that his dad has died, that his father had died.
Así que tú tampoco lo conoces.
¿No? El abuelo está muy enfermo.
And they're not really talking about she has known grandpa, but have you met? They're using conocer as met. Haven't you met this grandpa of ours? Lo han llevado a un hospital. Llevar is to carry or transport or move somebody. Lo han llevado, him, they have taken off to the hospital. So she just finished saying,
Tampoco lo conoces.
¿No?
Grandpa's sick.
El abuelo está muy enfermo y lo han llevado a un hospital.
They have taken him to a hospital. They've taken him off to a hospital. Llevar means to bring something to somebody. It means to take somebody. Well, he was transported to the hospital, right? So that's llevar. Lo han llevado. They have taken him.
Pero sí he conocido al tío Arturo.
I have met. He conocido. I've met Uncle Arthur. He conocido al tío Arturo. I've met him. Vale, bien.
Que ha venido desde la Argentina.
Ha venido. He has come. Ha venido desde la Argentina. He has come all the way from Argentina.
Es muy simpático.
He's a nice
¿Cómo
guy.
es Arturo?
What's he like?
¿Decía papá?
Se parece a papá. Does he look like dad? Because Roberto knows these two guys, Arturo and his own dad, were brothers. So he's asking if Arturo looks like his own father, like Roberto's father.
No tanto.
Not so much, she says.
Acuérdate que tienen padres diferentes.
Remember, they had different fathers. Not necessarily a family resemblance.
Sí, claro. Cuéntame más de él.
Tell me more about him.
Es muy simpático y ¿sabes qué? Creo que él y Raquel como que
Naturalmente. No hay una telenovela completa sin un buen romance.
There's no good soap opera without a romance.
A propósito, ¿no podrás conseguirme algo más de comer?
Can't you get me something more to eat?
Muero de hambre.
I'm dying of hunger.
eso indica que ya estás bien.
Yeah, guess you're getting
Voy
well.
a llamar a Raquel y a tío Arturo para avisarles. Y
Okay.
veré qué puedo
Y bla, bla, bla. No hay nada muy importante aquí. Nothing so important here. Aquí cambiamos de tema. We've changed our theme.
Bueno.
Estamos con Ramón.
¿Sí? ¿Con Ramón Castillo? Él mismo. Bueno, sí, podría ser. Lo hemos pensado, pero
Lo hemos pensado. We've thought about it. Here comes a perfect. We've thought about it,
todavía no lo hemos decidido.
but we still haven't decided. Todavía no lo hemos decidido. We haven't decided on it yet. We don't really know what he's talking about yet.
Ajá. Sí, yo tengo que salir esta misma tarde, voy a la Gavia.
Got to leave right away today, this afternoon.
Como guste, podría verla allá. ¿Sí?
I could see it there.
El gusto es mío.
Okay.
Buenos días.
Business call. We know it's a business call of some kind.
Era la agente de bienes raíces.
Bienes raíces, real estate. Bienes raíces, real estate. It was the real estate agent. It was. So he's telling you who was on the phone.
Un empresario de los Estados Unidos está interesado en comprar la Gavia.
A businessman is interested in buying La Gavia. La Gavia is the family home. Yeah, remember, we might have to sell off the family home, all this stuff, because, the Miami office is like down the toilet, right?
Pero todavía no está en venta, ¿verdad?
Still not on sale. It's still not on the market yet. Está en venta. It's not on sale, meaning the property is not up to be purchased yet. She's a little
No.
concerned.
Y no sabemos cómo saben que es posible que la vendamos.
I don't know how they know we might sell it.
Hay alguien interesado en
Good thing that somebody's
la
interested.
propiedad.
Creí que habíamos decidido.
I thought we had decided to wait. They used a past. I thought that we had decided to wait
Esperar a que papá estuviera mejor.
till dad was better, till dad was feeling better. What are you doing putting this on the market now?
Sí, Mercedes, por supuesto.
Yeah, sure.
Pero esta agente quiere ver la propiedad y me parece bien saber cuál puede ser el precio.
I think we should still show it to this guy because, it'd be good to know what the price is going to be, kind of have an idea of what's our ballpark range. So that's what
Es
they're
verdad,
talking
Mercedes.
about there.
Eso nos ayudará a la hora de decidir.
It'll help us when it's time to decide.
Bueno, entonces hagan lo que quieran.
Well, do whatever you guys want. Hagan lo que quieran. Hagan, do, it's a command. Lo que quieran, whatever you want.
Yo voy al hospital a ver a papá.
¿No
I'm going to the
desayunas?
hospital.
Ya desayuné más temprano.
Bueno, yo tengo que ir a la Gavia.
Voy contigo.
¿Van a la Gavia? Me gustaría ir con ustedes. Un poco de aire fresco me haría bien.
Mercedes,
Little fresh air would do me good, he says. So.
¿has visto?
Has visto. Has visto a Carlos. Have you seen Carlos?
Carlos o a Gloria esta mañana.
¿No? ¿Por qué lo preguntas?
Why do you ask?
Bueno, es muy raro.
Oh, that's kind of weird. Yeah.
¿No estás cansada?
¿Has Look at all these us that you're seeing all over the place.
Debo
Dime.
llamar a mi familia en Puerto Rico para decirles que Roberto está bien.
Comprendo. ¿Quieres que yo los llame?
Si no es mucha molestia.
Por
You want
supuesto
me
que
to
no.
call? Okay,
Yo
they're
llamo.
talking about calling back to
Y
Puerto
luego me
Rico.
encuentro con Arturo para ir juntos al hospital.
Los esperamos. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Y ella llama a Puerto Rico como un favor a Ángela, ¿verdad? Y van a hablar
buenas.
del apartamento, de la casa del padre que se murió. ¿Sí?
Noticias. Ángela ha llamado de
Ángela ha llamado. She has called. Ha llamado desde el hospital. She has called from the hospital.
del hospital. Dice que Roberto se despertó
Roberto woke up. He's doing great.
y que está muy bien.
Bueno, qué alegría.
Yo voy a verlo ahora.
Por favor, dígale que nos alegramos mucho de que esté bien. Pregúntele si necesita algo
Sí, se lo prometo.
y dígale que le mando un abrazo.
Now we send him a hug.
Y hay algo muy importante. El hombre interesado en el apartamento ha hecho una oferta.
Ha hecho una oferta. The man who was interested in the apartment, right? Because they want to sell that off in San Juan. Ha hecho una oferta. He has made an offer. Ha hecho, has made. Ha hecho, he's made an offer.
¿Para comprarlo?
Sí, es una buena oferta. Ángela debe decidir. Pídale que se comunique conmigo.
Por supuesto.
Tell her to get in
Yo
touch
se
with
lo
me.
digo.
Ah, y también hay que recordarle que lo hable con Roberto.
Sí, por supuesto.
Remind her to talk to Roberto about it.
A veces es un poco apresurada.
He doesn't have complete
Comprendo.
trust in his niece
Adiós, Jaime.
handling this. Sometimes Angela's a little hasty in what she does. So, y ahora, llama aquí, y llama a la casa. And notice she calls,
También bien, gracias a Dios.
¿Se encuentra Pedro?
she addresses
No, licenciada.
licenciada. ¿Qué es eso? Licenciada, this is the maid, of course, who works at the big house, right? La licenciada is a formal term of address. She's recognizing she is a lawyer. You know, like we call doctors doctor. Well, I don't know. We don't really have a term for a lawyer. We do. What do we use for an attorney? Counselor. Yeah. You know, you hear that more in movies than people speaking, but licenciada, she's addressing her as a form of respect, recognizing that she is a lawyer. So that's what they meant by licenciada. She's licensed. Yeah. Okay.
Él no se encuentra aquí ahora.
¿Y Ramón o Mercedes?
Y
Tampoco están ellos. No hay nadie en la casa.
no hay nadie,
Mira,
nobody at home.
Tengo prisa. Cuando se comuniquen, dígales por favor que Roberto, su sobrino de Puerto Rico, está despierto, que se encuentra bien. Dígales también que yo salgo para el hospital para verlo.
Sí, licenciada, no se preocupe.
Don't worry,
En cuanto
I'll tell
ellos
them.
se comuniquen,
En cuanto as soon as they get in touch with me, I will tell them. Se los diré, I will tell them about it. En cuanto ellos se comuniquen, as soon as they get in touch with me, they haven't yet because nobody's home. Se los diré. I will tell them about it.
conmigo se los diré.
Bien, se lo agradezco.
And she thinks,
Hasta luego.
se lo agradezco. Y ahora we've just got some thinking. Oh, and then they give us a little cultural thing about el ballet folclórico. This is actually a very famous dance troupe, Mexican folk dance troupe, and they do travel all over the country. Boom, 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 boom. Y hablando un poquito. Oh, ella tiene boletos. She's gotten tickets, right? See?
Me sorprendió.
Así es, mi mamá.
Y todos van al espectáculo. They're all going to the show. Oh, yay, he gets to meet mom. Okay.
Ya la vas a conocer.
You're going to meet her already. You'll meet her already. No worries. Okay. And they talk about, she's fussing about cooking for the family now that they've got everybody back. But it doesn't really move the story forward all that much. And he just thanks her for getting the whole family back together. Y eso es.
Roberto, ya te hablé mucho de Raquel.
And she introduces everybody, right?
Que estuviste en esta horrible excavación.
Yo también te estoy muy agradecido, Raquel.
And he thanks her.
Todo lo que me ha contado Ángela.
With everything that Angela has told me. Me ha contado Ángela. With everything that Angela has told me about you.
Si te conociera de hace tiempo.
It's as if I've known you for quite some time. It's as if I already know you. Como si te conociera, it's as if I knew you, even though they've just met, okay? So.
Y yo a ti. Y ya te imaginarás que él es nuestro tío Arturo.
Es increíble.
¿Increíble? ¿Qué cosa?
Tenés la misma sonrisa de tu padre, Ángel.
You've got the same smile as your dad. He uses that little voz thing, tenés. You've got the same smile as your dad, Ángel.
La misma sonrisa.
The same smile.
Bueno, se te ve muy bien. Por lo menos estás despierto, ¿no?
At least you're awake, he says.
La verdad que sí, me siento muy bien.
Y yo lo puedo comprobar. Se comió 2 desayunos.
Yeah, I can prove it because he ate 2 breakfasts.
Veo que la recuperación ha sido completa y rápida.
Ha sido. Wow, that's from Sid.
2 desayunos.
Oye, a propósito, ¿no queda algo por ahí?
Un momentito, otra vez. I see that your recovery has been, a really rapid. Ha sido. Sido comes from ser. Ha sido, has been.
Ha sido completa y rápida.
Has been complete and quick. Okay.
Bueno, les he traído algunas cosas de Buenos
He traído. That comes from traer. Le he traído. I can't get it back to the exact right spot. I have brought you something from, some things from Buenos Aires.
De Buenos Aires. Pensé que les gustaría verlas.
Entonces es un regalito, sí, de las fotos de su papá. De las fotos de su papá. Y bueno, hablan un poquito, habría sentido. He must have felt guilty. Yeah, because they're going way back into the past about his father, Ángel, arguing with the dad, the stepfather having a heart attack and, getting taken out there. And he must have felt guilty is what he is talking about. So they're just talking about family history here.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Veo que el paciente ya está mucho mejor.
Sí, claro que sí.
I see the
Me
patient's
siento
much
muy
better.
bien, con ganas de salir de aquí.
I feel like getting out of here.
Tal vez ya podamos enviarlo a su casa.
Si me permiten, aprovecharé para llamar al hotel. Tal vez Pedro ya me haya enviado.
Maybe Pedro has sent along my wallet, right? She had left her wallet behind in the other episode. Perhaps Pedro has sent my wallet, and that's a perfect tense, but don't worry about that. You won't be expected to use that in talking. And then they go into the recap. So that's a little brief walkthrough on what happened there. But you see how many times they used present perfect there, a whole bunch of times. And so, if you are so inclined to go back and kind of compare that with your little notes on on the forms of haber and the present perfect tense, that, you know, you can piece it together a little bit better. Bien? Okay. I do want you to take some conversation time, switch gears, a menos que tengan alguna pregunta, unless anybody's got a question about what had happened in that last episode.
Just a question, and sometimes they use ya, and like when, you know, it's not always meaning something that's already happened. Like mom is like that, you're going to meet her. He says, or she says, ya la vas a conocer. Why is ya in there?
Ya means lots of things, and what ya means depends on the situation. Ya la vas a conocer. You're going to meet her already. Yeah, ya can mean right now, like somebody might look at you, yeah, let's move this along, right? Ya can mean already. Ya can mean many things. We'll address that next week. That's actually a very good question. Ya can mean a bunch of different things, but it depends on the context. And they use ya quite a bit, and people in real life will use ya quite a lot. But depending on the context in which it is used, it can be used to hurry something along. It will mean, well, it's going to happen in good time. It might mean it's already happened, but you have to kind of piece together how the situation is fleshed out to define ya. We'll talk about that next week. Es buen tema. That's a very good theme to talk about. I didn't have time to take a look at the reading that we had, but it talked a lot. Our little reading talked about, you know, your health, good health. And we're going to skip over that a little bit so you've got time to do some conversation. And the prompt I asked you to think about was to talk about what you're going to do to improve your health, to maintain your health, because the article was all about, you know, mantener la salud. I am going to put you off probably into about 3 different groups. Okay. Y no tiene que ser nada muy difícil. ¿Cuál es la cosa que ustedes van o que tú personalmente vas a hacer? What is the thing you're going to do para mantener la salud? Yo voy a hacer más ejercicio. Voy a hacer ejercicio, voy a caminar, específicamente voy a caminar o voy a montar en bicicleta por lo menos 3 o 4 veces a la semana, ¿no? Personalmente es lo que yo voy a hacer para mantener la salud, porque ya como muy bien. I already eat pretty well. Como bastante bien. Cocino con ingredientes muy saludables, pero a veces cuando hace mucho calor, a veces no hago ejercicio. Porque ahora en julio, en agosto, va a ser muy difícil. Es muy difícil durante el verano hacer ejercicio como debemos, as we should, ¿verdad? Entonces, tengo que hacer un esfuerzo. I've got to make an effort. Tengo que hacer un esfuerzo muy fuerte cada día, o por lo menos 3 o 4 días a la semana, para hacer más ejercicio. Es lo que yo quiero hacer, ¿verdad? Okay, I just want you to talk about what you're going to do, and what you put you off into groups of about 3 o 4. ¿Cuántos somos aquí? Somos 11. 3, Tres grupos, por lo menos. Un grupo más, momentito. We're going to add one room and move a couple people over so that we've got this evened out a little bit. 4 y 4. Y así es. Ok, aquí es perfecto. This is pretty darn perfect. ¿Necesitan 10 minutos por lo menos o no? 10 minutos, ¿ok? Yo quiero que ustedes hablen. I want you guys to talk. Y cosas muy fáciles. Cosas como que van a comer, que van a cocinar, que van a hacer de ejercicio. What are you going to do as exercise? What do you do as exercise? Whatever it is you do for better health. And maybe it's just, and maybe it's something totally different than that. ¿Está bien?
Sí, sí.
Okay, magnifico. You do need to hit your join button. And we'll give you some time for actual conversation here.
Corro o monto mi bicicleta 3 veces a la semana y levanto pesas,
pesas, sí.
3 veces a la semana.
Es buena cosa.
También. Pero
yo no he levantado, perdón, no he levantado pesas y, tengo los brazos muy flojos. Son terribles. Ok, continúa, por favor.
Pero no soy perfecta. Me gusta helado y bebo la cerveza y el vino los fines de semana. Quiero hacer más yoga también.
Sí.
Qué buena idea. Qué buena idea.
For flexibility, I don't know how you say it.
Flexibilidad, para mantener la flexibilidad. Sí,
Flexibility.
eso es buena idea. Yo debo tomar clases de yoga. Yo debo hacerlo también, sí. Ok, me gusta mucho.
Okay.
¿Hay alguna pregunta? I'm going to check in on each group a little bit. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta o no?
No.
No? Okay. I'm going to leave just to kind of pop in and see if other groups have questions. ¿Sí? ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Adiós.
Okay.
Now that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
Hola. We were just talking
Unmute.
Going to the gym.
I hago ejercicio todos los días, caminado, golf, o la cinta de correr, treadmill.
Oh. Ah, okay. Jugar, jugando al golf. Jugando al golf. Se dice golf. Es golf, ¿no?
So, Marilyn, a question. I was saying something and I wanted to use the word etc. How do you say that in Spanish?
Etcétera.
It is, etcétera.
Etcétera. It comes from a Latin thing, etcétera. Sí, así se dice. That is what they say, etcétera.
And then I was going to say, I was going to continue. And I was saying to Pat and Betsy that I thought about using future tense, like I am going to continuare.
Voy a continuar.
I'm going to continuare dar un vuelta larga todos los mañanas.
Todas las mañanas, sí, pero sí, dar una vuelta, sí, es así. Bien, sí, fantástico.
You guys.
Okay, ¿hay más preguntas o no?
I had a question on how to write this. I'll read what I was trying to say. Monto mi bicicleta de peloton. And I was trying to say some days a week. And when I tried to look up sun, they said unos cuantos is what I should use.
Unos cuantos días, some days,
I don't
algunos días. There are different ways you can express that. Algunos días.
Algunos, I didn't think of that one.
Unos dos o tres días, some 2 or 3 days.
I like the algunos. That I didn't think.
Yeah.
Algunos días, sí.
I just thought it was weird. Unos cuantos. That just didn't.
Yeah, well, that is a little more specific in saying a few days out.
Oh,
yeah, out of the week.
Trying to say like
few days out of the week.
Yeah,
I do that, even though like because I usually voy al gimnasio, but.
Sí, exacto. Muy bien. Okay, I'm going to check in on another group here.
Okay.
Hola. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Perdón.
Okay. Oh, you came in.
Sí. I have come into each group just a little bit. ¿Hay alguna pregunta que ustedes tienen o no?
No. Oh, I mean, do you want us to tell you what we said in Spanish?
Un poquito, sí.
Okay.
Me gustaría. I would like that.
Okay. Desde que la seguridad en el país derecho en marzo, he tenido que ajustar mi rutina de ejercicio.
Bien. Okay, now you want to use your word pie.
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 Pie, because I have a little difficulty with that one. So pie, foot.
Okay. Derecho, the right foot.
El pie derecho.
Okay.
El pie derecho. Sí, right foot.
En lugar de caminar en el parque o en senderos del desierto, estoy caminando en la piscina mientras el pie cura.
Pie.
Pie.
Mientras el pie se cura. Sí. Mientras está curando. Está sanando. Sanando. Sanar is to heal. You can use curar, but sanar means to heal up, to get better, you know. Mientras está sanando, while it is healing up. Exacto.
And
so just work on your pie word.
En suerte esperé reanudar mi ejercicio regular pronto.
La suerte es luck.
With luck. I
Oh,
hope
con
to-
suerte.
Con suerte.
Con suerte, con suerte, con un poco de suerte. A
I
little bit
want
of
to,
luck.
yeah, restart my regular exercise routine.
No. Quiero comenzar otra vez. Quiero comenzar otra vez. Mi rutina. Quiero comenzar mi rutina normal.
Normal, yeah.
De ejercicio. Mi rutina, mi previa rutina, my old routine, mi previa rutina, mi vieja rutina, mi antigua rutina de ejercicio. There are a whole bunch of different ways you can say that.
Kathleen?
Perfecto.
Este año planeo beber más agua y llevar una dieta saludable con muchas frutas y verduras. There's another word for vegetable.
Sí, verduras muy normal. Verduras es lo más común, creo. Legumbres, se puede decir legumbres, pero verduras, sí.
El año pasado no pueden comer muchas frutas ni verduras porque COVID causa
Fue difícil
diarrea.
fue difícil ir al supermercado, ¿no?
Yes, sí.
Sí,
sí. Pero la semana pasada, la semana pasada, I guess I had, don't remember past tense.
Tenía, that's okay.
Tenía mi segundo
vacuna. Mi segunda vacuna. My second shot.
Segunda vacuna.
Vacuna, inyección.
Y la diarrea es gone.
Oh,
curada.
Okay.
Y so puedo comer frutas y verduras. Again, también.
Otra vez.
Otra vez.
Muy bien. I'm gonna scoot out. I've got one more room to check into. Will probably only be about a few minutes till we get back.
Like that, but
Interesting.
Hola.
You are muted, Marilyn.
Estoy aquí en caso de que ustedes tengan una pregunta. Estoy aquí en caso de que, in case, ustedes tengan una pregunta, alguna pregunta. ¿Hay alguna pregunta de la conversación o no?
Kayaking.
Oh, hacer kayak.
Hacer kayak. Okay.
Es una palabra prestada. That is a borrowed word. O remar en kayak. Remar is to row, because you row a kayak. Así, hacer kayak o remar. Remar, R-E-M-A-R. Remar es row. So, using your oars, right? Sí, es así. Remar en kayak.
Gracias. Oh, okay.
Remar en kayak. Me gusta muchísimo remar en kayak. Me gusta muchísimo remar en kayak. Es muy divertido. Es difícil a veces, pero es divertido. Me gusta, sí. Bien. ¿Hay otra pregunta? Any other questions? ¿Sí o no?
No.
No? Okay, we're going to bring everybody on back in a minute, en un minuto. Y pronto van a venir. We'll have everybody. Yeah, okay, here come a whole bunch more people. Aquí vienen. Okay. 20 segundos. They got about 20 more seconds to come on back in. So we've just got a few people finishing up. Van a terminar la conversación. Van a terminar la conversación y van a volver. Aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody. Aquí vienen todos. Fantástico. Bueno, ustedes hicieron muy bien. A lot of you guys did really well. You prepared some nice things. And it is good to have a theme that you kind of prepare some things to say. And, you know, you don't have to follow that script exactly, but it gives you a little bit of a frame of reference. And one of the things that's always suggested for improving your speaking is to have a little something prepared and then try to riff off of that and, you know, tweak a few things as you go along. And it's kind of natural for us to do that, even when we do that in English, see? Now you add some extra things on that maybe you haven't written down, but it's a good thing to practice doing. Okay. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta o no?
I have a question about the reading. Are we going to talk about it next week?
Well, yes, we will. We will. We don't have quite enough time, but if you've got a quick question, I do want you to ask that now, but we will revisit it. And,
no, it's not quick. So.
No, you want to wait till next week?
Yes, I'll wait.
Okay. Well, wait till next week.
Federico had a question. He was saying.
Federico, perdón. Sí. Oh, and you're muted, Fred. Federico.
Jan has been trying to mute me for about 20
years. For years.
And by the way, that little squirt bottle that you had to shut down your cat, does that work for spouses?
I'll be over one.
No la necesito para mi esposo. Es muy bien educado. He is very polite and well behaved.
So I have a tendency sometimes, because it sounds right, but I don't think it is, to put in las and los and whatever in front of certain nouns. For example, I had me gustan frutas y vegetales, and I had to scratch out las frutas and las vegetales. It shouldn't, the las and the las
You should use the las there. Yes, with gustar, you should always.
That's why I thought.
Okay, and you thought that. I want to show you something, Federico. That was bothering your brain. And the reason it was bothering your brain is because you've actually heard it used. You've heard las and los used with gustar a lot. Whenever you've heard somebody, a native speaker, using gustar, and they're talking about what they like, they do use the los or the las. So your brain was doing a little short wire of warning, warning, a little red light flashing there. When we use gustar or encantar or interesar or fascinar, any of those verbs that are like gustar, and we talk about a general category of things, we do use the word the. English does not do that, right? You might say, I like wine. Me gusta el vino. And it does not mean I like the wine. It doesn't translate that way. In English, we say I like, and we talk about a big category. When you talk about I like, or I don't like, or I love, or I'm interested in, and you talk about a category of things, you do have to use el, la, los, or las. Me gusta el vino. Me gustan los gatos. Me gustan los perros. Me gusta la luz en este cuarto. I like the light in this room. Whenever you talk about what you like, and you use these verbs like gustar or gustar itself, we must use the article. It is just a rule they have.
What if what you like is an action? They like to see.
Then you don't use an article because it's not a noun.
Right.
Because it's a verb. Me gusta, por ejemplo, me encanta ver, me encanta ver. I'm talking about an action. Me encanta ver películas en español. En Netflix. Me encanta usar el app en la biblioteca, de la biblioteca. Me encanta usar el app Libby para prestar, para leer libros de la biblioteca. Okay, I like to use the app. I like to watch movies, but you're talking about an action, so we don't use el, la, los, las with that. But with things or people, well, yeah, sometimes some people, you'll use the articles. And we skip that stuff. You know, I like dogs, I like cats, I like pasta, and we just leave it at that. But with usar, we do use el, la, los, las. Es buena pregunta. And we have to remind ourselves of that. Sí, Patricia.
If it's a specific movie that I like, do you eliminate it then? If you're talking about a specific name of a movie, like
por ejemplo,
I can't think of one right off it.
Puedo decir, I can say, me gusta la película Moonstruck. Me gusta la película Fast and Furious. But you know, somebody may just say, me gusta Fast and Furious. Sí, they may, or you know, however they, if it's a title in Spanish, right? Depende, you know, that depends a little. If they say the movie, la película, then it will be la película, sí. But when we talk about a category of things, we are going to use that el, la, los, las, and we don't do that in English. And that's why we can't translate word for word, because that's, yeah, it's just one of their little rules, what they do.
What if you are you're using a verb, you're not saying me gusta, but you're saying, I eat vegetables and fruits. Yo como vegetales y frutas, or?
Yeah, because they're como vegetales y frutas. It's what they would call as a kind of an uncountable thing. Fruits and veggies, it's just, yeah. But with gustar, we use that article, and that is the natural thing to do in Spanish. And therefore, verbs like gustar, you know, so interesar and encantar, if you want to magnify gustar and say love something, encantar, right? You'll use the article. It's just what they do. It's the pattern they're used to following.
Okay, gracias.
Excellent. So one thing I want you to do to come in for next week, because a lot of people kind of say, oh yeah, I could see lots of heads going like, yeah. That kind of stumps me. I want everybody to come in with some things that they like. Yeah. Things that they like. It can be things you like to do. It can be things you just like in general. Okay. Or things you love in general. And I am going to give you as homework a video about how to talk politely about things you don't like. Because we can, sometimes that's a topic, isn't it? Yeah. So if you're just talking about what you don't like, and you know it's something that a lot of people don't like it is perfectly proper to say, no me gustan las serpientes. I don't like snakes, because it's a pretty safe bet that a lot of people are going to share that feeling, right? No me gustan las arañas. I don't like spiders. No me gustan las tarántulas. I don't like tarantulas. That is a pretty universal. Are you going to offend anybody by saying that? I doubt it, right? Okay. But what about if somebody asks you, in a conversation, hey, you want to do this with me? And you don't want to do that. In that case, it is considered kind of gauche. Oh, I'm using a French term. Kind of not very great idea to just come out and say, no me gusta. And you're going to see this video will go a little fast for you. I'm going to tell you, but it is very good because it tells you culturally what is acceptable. What is acceptable way to say, I don't like something when it's put out there as an invitation, because there are different ways of expressing it and that are considered much kinder rather than just saying no me gusta. And you'll see in the video, because he's going to pause and it's like somebody says, no, I don't like doing that. And the guy who proposed the activity is like, oh, I'm okay. I'll just go off and do that by myself. But culturally, no me gusta, unless you're talking about something that everybody, like in general, doesn't like, serpientes, arañas, it's kind of it's pushy. If it's put out there as an invitation, it's considered kind of pushy to say, I don't like. So there are alternatives. Ooh, there are going to be all this realm, these little phrases you can use instead. And then it takes the pressure off that person who proposed something that you don't like. And it's considered kinder and politer. Yeah. So come in with things that you want to talk about that you do like, but we're going to give you a video to watch about things that you don't like so much, so that you see ways that are considered gentler. Gentler for saying, I don't like that so much. And nobody will think twice about, oh gosh, well, that was bogus. You just don't like it. So a polite way to turn things down, a polite way. And what you're going to see is that instead of saying, I don't like somebody, you generally either put it on you. It's kind of like breaking up with somebody. It's not you, it's me. That's one alternative. And the other alternative is going to be not to say you don't like, but that, well, I would rather do this. And it's going to make sense when you listen to it. ¿Está bien? Good. Okay, bien. Do you want the next episodio of Destinos? Sí. Bien. Okay. I will give that to you. I am going to preview one thing for you. The title, el título del episodio es Entre la espada y la pared. Entre la espada y la pared. And that means between the sword and the wall.
Not a good place to be.
That is a special phrase that is used. Entre la espada y la pared is a term that came from medieval times. And it means like your back's to the wall. Oh, think about it. Sword in the wall. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. It is entre la espada y la pared. It paints a picture in somebody's mind when you say that in Spanish. And I want to see if you get that idea and maybe why they call it that. Why the episode has that title. ¿Por qué tiene el título ese episodio? ¿Bien? ¿Ok? ¿Está bien?
Sí.
Perfecto, perfecto. Muy perfecto. I'm going to stop.